Right, here we go. So last week's work I'm going over. So this was from the booklet, the theory booklet. So previously we got up to logic circuit diagrams. I went through those last week. This week we're looking at types of software. So there's a brief explanation of what software is. Any program that allows us to use a computer. And then we have fill in the gaps. So 5 examples of application software. So you're just thinking of an app. So anything that is an app you use on a computer. So this would not include an operating system, right? So that's system software, which is different. So application software is software that runs on top of your operating system. So word processor, spreadsheet, database, web browser, presentation software, anything like that. So system software is a software that's designed to run the computer. Okay, so it's the platform for the application software to run on top. And there's 2 types. There's operating system software and there's utility software. So what does utility software do? Well, in some way it tries to improve the running of the computer. Okay, so it tries to benefit the running of the computer in some way. So here we have some tools. So a data compression tool. So an example of that would be WinZip. And this tool reduces the size of files. Okay, so it's a compression program that reduces the size of files, so it's easier and quicker to transfer, and it takes up less space when you store them. You have a data encryption tool, so file vault's an example of that, and this stores data in such a way that you need a key to unlock it, right, or a password, so that your data is protected. So even if somebody gets onto your computer, they still can't read the file. Anti-malware software searches for and destroys malware on a computer. Okay, so anti-malware software is usually antivirus and anti-malware software combined. System cleanup software, so that finds and removes old files that might be, again, building up on your system. Lots of memory you can release. Software update, so that looks for updates or the latest versions with all of your software in your computer. So this is a way of it automatically updating your software. Disk defragmentation, this rearranges the files on your hard disk, so it improves the speed of your read and writes. And then a file backup piece of software, so it doesn't really matter what you put in here as long as they're relevant. This is obviously to create a backup of your hard disk, right? So this is important because you will lose any data you've got on your hard disk if you haven't backed it up. Right, so in your own words, explain the difference between utility and application software. So utility, the purpose of utility is to manage the hardware and software on the computer. Application software is just what you have to use the computer. So application software is the reason you'd use a computer. Utility software is to manage the hardware and software on the computer. Right, so operating systems. So operating systems manage processes, memories, devices, input, output, applications, and security. Most modern computer systems have an operating system, and obviously you probably recognize all of these different types. So our operating system acts as a buffer between the application software and the user, and also the hardware and other system software and the application software and the user. So it's the intermediary, it's the thing that we use as a middleman, so to speak. Right, so MUMPS, we've got a little acronym there. So remember, the operating system is multitasking, it's for the user interface, it's for memory management, peripheral management, and security. So MUMPS is an acronym. Right, so multitasking means we can have more tasks running, more than one task running at once. So how are tasks scheduled? So each application is split into tasks, and each task is given a priority, and the CPU executes each instruction in the order that is specified by the operating system. So When we're trying to multitask on our computer, it's the operating system that decides which task has the priority and in which order the tasks will be scheduled. So the operating system is there to order the execution of the tasks. User interface obviously provides a GUI, which is a graphical user interface. How's the user interface used to control the computer systems? Again, this should be obvious. You've got menus, you've got buttons, icons, folders that you can click on to open applications, etc. Advantages: easy to use, hard for users to change things they shouldn't. Disadvantages: you're restricted by the features that developers actually put in, and it takes up CPU and memory to deal with the interface and graphics. Right, so here's an example of an interface, a Mac OS terminal. What type of interface is this? This is a CLI, a command line interface. Explain how interface is used to control the computer systems. So in a command line interface, you type in commands. Right, you have to know the commands in order to execute any tasks. What are the advantages of this type of system? So you have greater control over the tasks you want to do. It's easy to automate tasks, so you can write little scripts that automate tasks for you. They're more efficient, there's less graphics to display. Disadvantage: it's easy to accidentally edit things and harder to carry out simple tasks. So as with everything, there's advantages and disadvantages. So we're now on to the M part of our mumps, memory management. So what type of computer memory are compatible or computer programs loaded into? So all programs loaded into RAM, and memory is measured in bytes. Managing storage, right? So what type of devices can be used to store programs and data for computer systems? So we can use secondary storage. So any examples of secondary storage are where we can store programs and data, right? So we always store them in secondary storage because that's non-volatile. Peripheral management, that's the P. So the operating system makes use of device drivers to communicate with different peripheral devices. Remember, that's how the operating system communicates with the hardware, through device drivers. So a device driver is a piece of software that allows the computer, specifically the operating system, to communicate with a peripheral. Right, yes, security. 3 examples of security features on a Mac OS X. Well, if you haven't got a Mac, you might not know this, but there's File Vault, which is an encryption piece of software, which protects your files. Sandboxing, so this separates critical parts of the system. So it isolates critical parts of the system, so nothing from the outside can get to them. So this is a device for protecting you from potential malicious network piece of software. And Gatekeeper, this specifically controls apps that are downloaded. All right, so these are security features on a Mac OS X, but this is not a question you'll be asked in the exam. It would just be give 3 examples of security features on a PC. So encryption is an example of a security feature, for example. You don't have to name the software. All right, so utility software. So this is about looking after the hardware and software on the computer. So antivirus software is a piece of utility software. What is a virus? Well, technically a virus is a self-replicating piece of code, right? That's why it's called a virus, because it self-replicates. Why must antivirus software be up to date? Clearly, because there are new viruses being created all the time with new signatures. So you need your antivirus software to be up to date so it can detect these. This is more utility software. So we've got a firewall here. So a firewall, how might a firewall be used in a school to protect students? Well, it can restrict access to inappropriate websites. So your firewall can block inappropriate websites. And how does the firewall prevent you from being attacked? It only allows authorized data packets. So again, it filters what comes into your system and will block any unauthorized data. So you may notice that when you load a new piece of software on Windows, the firewall pops up and says, do you want to allow this through? And if you click no, then it won't allow it, and the software either won't run properly or run slowly, because it'll be certain types of software it won't allow into, or certain types of data it won't allow through, so you have to enable that. Spyware protection, what type of data could the spyware monitor? So usernames and passwords, personal information. So this would protect your computer from keyloggers and things like that. Disk defragmentation. So this, if you've looked at this, you can just show that these are your files here, separated on your disk over time through updates and so on and so forth. And when you defragment, all of the software gets put back together in a contiguous form, which is easier or quicker, certainly for the CPU to be able to read the data. And that's it. Right, obviously there's a skills check here. And as always, if you could update your learning objectives,